It is so dark and gloomy today and it's raining, and usually I love the rain, but not when there's snow outside still. I'm so over winter. Welcome back to another homemade kitchen restock. You know the drill. I'm canning kidney beans today. I'm making french fries, hash brown patties, mashed potatoes, and veggie pot pie. I think I'm gonna do the veggie pot pie tomorrow. We'll see. And then on the left is my list of the order of steps so I can successfully do all of the recipes in the shortest amount of time possible. Today's a little bit of an exception though, because I'm pressure canning kidney beans, and I think altogether that's gonna take me like 4 or 5 hours on its own. I think this is gonna take me all day, but that's okay. So I need to start the ice maker. I need to rinse the beans and boil them, pack the beans into jars, then pressure can batch 1. Then I'm gonna make veg. Have you seen people online canning beans by just pouring dry beans into a jar and then pressure canning them with some salt and boiling water? I see those videos literally all the time. That's rebel canning. I follow the USDA Guide to Home Canning. This is free. You can print it off their website for free, or you can buy a bound copy of it. I printed it off for free because when I was downloading this, they were out of copies and I wanted it now. So I put it in a binder just in sheet protectors, and I reference this all the time. So today we're canning red kidney beans that I bought from the grocery store. They're dried, they're shelled. This tells you exactly how to do it. You cover them with water, soak 12 to 18 hours, drain the water, and then boil for 30 minutes with fresh water. Add half a teaspoon of salt per pint. Fill hot jars with beans and cooking water, leaving 1 inch headspace. Remove bubbles, adjust headspace, wipe the rims, and adjust the lids and process. And then it tells you how long you need to process for, however much time it's gonna take, and the PSI. I don't understand the appeal of rebel canning beans. I don't think the extra 10 minutes that it saves you of actual physical work is worth the risk of botulism. So I'm going to show you how to do it the USDA approved method. So our dishwasher currently has all of the jars for canning in it. So here we are. My beans have expanded so much. This is 6 pounds of beans. So I did this last night. Now I need to really carefully drain these. I'm gonna use the other colander just to tip these beans into. And then I'm just gonna do like one little rinse through. Okay, and while that's filling, I am gonna get started with washing potatoes. I know I said this last week, I keep the peels on for potatoes just because I don't want the waste, and it honestly just makes the most sense. If the peels bother you, then just peel your potatoes. And this is a compostable veggie scrub brush. I get it from my local refill store. These are amazing. Okay, so we're gonna move it over to our burner and start heating up so it can boil. And then I have a 5-pound bag of white potatoes for the soups that I'm making today and tomorrow. So let's wash these. Okay, so I started my ice maker. I rinsed my beans and boiled. And I washed the potatoes. Oh, that sucks. There was probably water on this counter. At least I did not need this other peach anymore. Okay. Perfect, we'll let that dry out. Okay, so we're still waiting for our beans to boil. Here's ice from our ice machine. Okay, so basically we need to blanch these french fries. So I adjusted the heat slightly so it's still at a rolling boil, but isn't going to boil over. I do periodically just skim the foam off the top because usually there's like random bean skins and stuff like that that are in there.
Your french fry timer is up.
When you're planning to freeze potato products like french fries or hash browns, you want to blanch them so they go from an ice water bath into boiling water for 4 to 5 minutes and then back into an ice water bath to stop the cooking. It's not a requirement that you spend the time laying out french fries like this. I just had a lot of time to kill. As long as the french fries are not in one giant pile, they will flash freeze perfectly.
So I've got 2.5 full layers of the potatoes. None of them are touching each other. We're gonna flash freeze these.
You can let these flash freeze for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and then you can take them out and then put them in a freezer safe bag.
This is how I store my canner, with the lid upside down. There are my shelves. I will be using both of them. I need 2 inches of water in the bottom of this, so we're gonna fill it with hot water. You don't want to overfill or underfill your part, so check your manual as to how much water your canner needs. Mine needs between 2 and 3 inches. And there we're there. If your canner is an All-American and it's really heavy, feel free to like put this on the stove top and then bring cups of water over to fill it. And I just want to make sure it's centered over the burner. It is not. All right, so let's get my little canning counter space ready. I need a cutting board, something between like your cold stone and the warm jars, because otherwise you'll cause thermal shock. Here's my rim juice, extra lids, my headspace tool, and my jar lifter. And then for this recipe, I need salt. All right, so I've got my salt container and then my half a teaspoon measure.
There are a lot of steps for filling your jars, but honestly it gets a lot easier over time. This is a hot pack method, so I'm filling 1 jar at a time. The jar is hot, the food is hot. I use a canning funnel and then this canning ladle with the little spout on the edge. It's really helpful for pouring liquids. Recipes will have a specific amount of headspace that you want to make sure you fill to. A headspace tool will help you get it right every single time. The salt in this recipe is optional. Then I use a silicone spatula just to debubble my jar. Then I'll double check my headspace and then wipe off the rim with vinegar just to make sure that there's no residue on the edge. And then I add my jar lid and band finger tight.
So my first layer of jars is done. I am adding my shelf. And I want to make sure it's as centered as possible and that it's not going to go anywhere.
I have an All-American 921 pressure canner. I know that I can double stack in it. Sometimes people have problems, but I haven't.
Okay, so if you have a different pressure canner, take out your manual and double check that it's the same as this video before just like blindly following my steps. So I'm adding my lid, and then I want to make sure there's equal amount of space here and here and here and here. You just want the lid to be level. My first one in, my front one and my back one, you want to screw opposite sides in at the same time. And you do want to screw these in until you cannot turn them anymore. We're going to start bringing this up to pressure. I like to do it at 6 on my stovetop. Brought up the burner, and there we go. All right, so this is good. I'm just going to do one little stir, then cover it and turn the heat down to 2, and we're just going to let it simmer. Okay, as usual, I am out of counter space. However, this is what I usually use for my canning counter. We're gonna use it for this now. These are frozen. They're gonna go in this gallon-sized bag.
I always recommend flash freezing. It just makes things a lot easier when you're going to defrost something, so you don't have to defrost a whole bag of French fries because they're all stuck together.
Okay, so we are just starting to get steam. It's not quite the steady steam that we're looking for though. And let me put the mic next to it so you can actually hear it. This is what we're looking for a steady stream of air. Hey Google, set a 10-minute timer. Rice is done. Hey Google, set a 75-minute canning timer.
Second timer. Canning for 1 hour and 15 minutes. And we're starting now.
For the rest of these russet potatoes, I'm turning them into hash brown patties. I know I can shred them using my KitchenAid, but this is already dirty. So I want to see if I can shred them using this.
This is a safe mandolin slicer. The brand is Once for All. I got it as a Christmas gift from my mother-in-law, and this was actually the first time I had used it. I was really surprised with how many shapes I was able to make with this, and that I could change the thickness, the size, all of that.
This is quite an arm workout though, TBH.
Instead of dirtying another knife, I also used it to play around with the different shapes, and then this eventually became mashed potatoes, so there were potato slices, potato french fries of different sizes and thicknesses. Once I boiled them, they all just mashed together perfectly, no matter what the shape was. And I once again did not feel like dirtying another dish, so I just mashed it with a whisk, and it was just fine. And then I let these cool down, but then I put them into super cubes, and if you've never heard me talk about super cubes, welcome to my channel, you must be new. I really love super cubes. They are the best tool for freezing food and prepping food. They are freezer safe and oven safe silicone trays that help you freeze food into perfect portions. So for mashed potatoes in particular, a serving size is about half of a cup, so I froze these into 1 cup portions, so it's enough for me and my husband for 1 meal. And then I did the exact same thing with these hash browns that I did with the french fries with the blanching, except I only boiled them for 3 minutes just because they were so much thinner. Then I portioned these out onto a tray and then flash froze them before adding them into a freezer safe bag.
I'm putting you over here just in case it explodes. Gotta be safe.
It truly does not matter how many times I've taken off the weight and actually unscrewed the pressure canner, I'm still mildly afraid of it, and I will stay a full arm's length away the entire time. Usually too, you can hear the metal to metal seal breaking or lifting when you get to the 3rd or 4th knob ready to go down, but I still get nervous every single time. After these jars are done in their rounds in the pressure canner, they will sit on my countertop for 24 hours to seal. This ended up being 2 rounds in the pressure canner, and I ended up with 27 jars of kidney beans. Then the next day I begin my seal checks. The first thing I do is I tap on all of the lids just to make sure that the buttons have gone down. Then I remove the rings and lift every single jar by only the lid. The vacuum seal should be strong enough that it should hold perfectly fine. Once I'm sure the jars are sealed, then they get washed, labeled, and put away in our pantry. Our dinner pantry right now is a kitchen cabinet in our basement. Here are all of the potato products for the freezer that just went into gallon bags. And then this is the next day. I'm making my pie crust. And this pie crust recipe is enough for 4 super cube dishes for 4 of the 2-cup dishes. I did this in a mixer just like I would any pie crust with a regular paddle. I add my flour and then I add each little pat of butter one at a time and then use water at the end just to bring the dough together. And then once the dough is done, it goes into the freezer just to firm up a little bit, and then I get started on my filling. I added garlic, mushroom, and onions just to a saute pan to cook them down a little bit. The next time I make this though, I don't think I'll be adding mushrooms just because they didn't really fit with the vegetable medley that I had planned. I also added green beans, potatoes, carrots, peas, and some cauliflower. And then the base is all veggie broth, and I used a little bit of cornstarch and soy sauce mixture, like a slurry mixture, just to thicken it toward the end. I will absolutely be making this again, and I cannot wait to experiment with different kinds of fillings. I was really envisioning a Marie Callender's pot pie, like a chicken pot pie. This ended up being more of a hearty vegetable filling. So I'm really excited to experiment and do more of a cream filling this time. We ended up making 2 of these in super cube dishes for dinner, and then I ended up being able to freeze 3 more 2-cup trays, 2 of filling, and 1 pre-made with the crust and the filling inside. I was so tired after all of this, I did not film an outro. So here it is. This ended up being a really good restock, even if things don't happen according to plan or I didn't do them in the order that I had originally intended, but that's okay. You just kind of have to go with it when you have a really long cooking day. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you next week with some more from scratch cooking.